People love you or they hate you so much they want to rip you to pieces. We call it Marmite over here, which is a savoury thing you put on toast, which people either love or hate.
It's a good thing we like Marmite over on this channel, hey. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to YBL Therapy. My name is Josh. It's a pleasure to have you here today for episode number 1 of the GEM series. GEM stands for Good Enough Male, and that's exactly what we do. We take a deep dive into masculinity and ask questions: how, as men, do we become good enough males? So in this episode, I'm going to be talking about a top role model of mine, Jordan Peterson. I'm sure many of you have heard him. Personally, for me, he's inspired me greatly, and his work has taught me a lot about showing up in the world. Now, I'm featuring an interview that Jordan did with Piers Morgan. If you'd like to watch the full interview, do check it out. I've dropped a link in the description box below. Alright, so let's get the ball rolling. This interview initially was marketed for Jordan to come and advertise his new book, We Who Wrestle with God. I bought this a few days ago. It's fantastic. I love it. I'll do another episode down the line reviewing it and offering my main takeaways from it. But let's dive into this video.
Is that you've become this kind of heroic figure for millions of young men who felt totally disenfranchised from society. And I remember the first time I interviewed you in my studio, and you got quite emotional talking about them and how you felt responsible to them and how many of them would come up to you, literally in the street come up to you and tell you how you had sort of saved their lives in many ways.
Right. So one of the main things in society for men is having a meaningful role model. There are many homes where there is no father. We haven't got many examples of powerful integrated masculinity in society. So who is teaching the men or the boys how to be men if this is not the case? Now, of course, that isn't so for everybody, but Jordan has become one of these archetypal role models. Piers here calls him a hero, and that's something that really resonates with me. I saw a video of Jordan about 3 or 4 years ago. That's when he came into my radar, standing up to people criticizing him. And now, of course, in the land of free speech, everybody can have opinions. That's not what this is about. But what inspired me about Jordan in that moment was he honored himself. He arrived authentically and stood in his truth, even if it wasn't a popular decision. He's a very, very intellectual man. He thinks things through very clearly, which is more than can be said for other people. That's beside the point. But learning that it's okay to speak in your truth, to arrive authentically, I think are a core component to arriving as a good enough male. So let's dive back into what this video continues to say.
You have this real visceral impact on young men who've been really in the last 10 years floundering for their identity and what is acceptable and not acceptable, and what it means to be a man, what it means to be masculine.
Well, I don't think that the care that I've taken, let's say, with regards to young men is any different in its essence than the care I take with my son.
So this is really important, because this is Jordan actually saying that he has stepped into the role of being an archetypal father for the collective. So for many boys without that role model setting the way, he's actually taken the mantle, stepped into that responsibility. And I think great leaders aren't ones that take it in a tyrannous way. Jordan's worked very hard with his knowledge, his research, and how he arrives in the world. And this is something that's sort of been handed to him, a gift of God, as it were. And that's something I want to tap into later, is when we receive a mission or a desire to do something, whether or not we follow that. And that's important. And I think Jordan is a real example of following that mission that lands in your heart.
You know, I like my son. I want the best for him. I think he's great. I encourage him all the time. I like to see him move beyond his zone of comfort out into the world. And then I have all these young men who have been listening to what I've been saying, who are doing the same thing. And it's the best possible thing. I mean, I had a show last night in Westbury, New York.
Just going to pause that quickly. Move beyond your zone of comfort. How powerful is that? How many people stay in the realms of safety? And so even speaking in an authentic way, if it's an unpopular thing, I mean, that terrifies me, to be around a crowd of people that all disagree with me, but I believe something true and true, finding my voice and arriving authentically. And I think on a level of arriving honestly and inspiring trust in other people, especially partners, they want to know that you are authentic and honest. And sometimes the disagreement creates a little bit of tension, which can create excitement, especially within a relationship scenario. Now, I'm not saying go out and cause fights. That's not a responsible man. But arriving authentically and speaking the truth of your heart is a very attractive quality. And that is something I learned from Jordan Peterson.
And afterwards, I usually meet somewhere between 60 and 100 people, and many of them are young men, and they come to the show very dressed up, you know. They often buy suits to come to the show, and they're like standing up and their shoulders are back and they're looking distinguished, and they've got ambition, and they're thrilled to death because they're doing something worthwhile. And, you know, they shake my hand and they say, you know, thanks for the help. But
okay, so that is the first clip that I wanted to show you. The next one is actually a little bit more emotional, sentimental, but I think incredibly powerful. And that's Jordan responding and talking about his recently passed away father.
There are so many parts of your dad's character in you, clearly. I mean, do you feel that? Did you, when you wrote this obituary, did you feel that really quite intensely?
well, you know, you pointed to that detail with regards to these rifles. Like, my father had 300 rifles. This was a real obsession, and he was a very good shot. He was a
Now, I wasn't expecting Jordan to go off about rifles here, but the way that he expands the story and turns it into a very powerful symbol of transformation is incredible. Watch.
provincial level shot. And it took me 30 years to figure out why the hell he collected those guns. I don't think he knew. And I told him 5 years ago, I said, Dad, I figured out why you're so obsessed with rifles. I said, it's because you want to hit the target dead center with one shot. And that's like, it's a symbolic representation of your aim in life.
Hit the target with one shot. Now here it's beautiful because Jordan clearly had an amazing role model of a father, and that's something that not every man has the privilege of experiencing, but he has received that knowledge and passed it on to the collective, as I've alluded to earlier. But what I love about this symbol of the rifle and hitting the shot with the target isn't necessarily about making it with your first try, making it with your first attempt, but it's being narrow-sighted almost in your vision, seeing the destination where you want to go and going for it. And then if we're to expand on that, that makes me think about purpose. That makes me think about drive. That makes me think about ambition. And these are all qualities that invoke a real meaningful sense of purpose in life. Now, if you don't have a purpose, or you feel a little bit lost in life, that's okay. That's part of the wonder. That's part of the mystery. But I promise that the moment you find it, a whole new sense of meaning will download and arrive in your life. And sometimes it's the small things. If you can't make sense of the big path, look at what brings you a sense of wonderment, fulfillment, enjoyment. It could be something very small. And follow the clues that invokes within you. Listen to your heart and see what awakens in you, and attune to the subtle. Those frequencies will guide you step by step to the next point. Trust me, I have been at a point in the past in my life without any sense of purpose, and it was following those clues that guided me now to my mission, to working as a therapist and hoping to inspire people with reigniting their potential. All right, let's continue with this interview.
And he thought about that. And my dad wasn't particularly metaphysically oriented, and that was an explanation he was entirely satisfied with, right? And you know, the word sin means to miss the mark, right? It means to miss the target.
Now, I just want to stop there because I think that the word sin could mean to miss the mark, could be misleading. I don't think Jordan is saying try first time and succeed. I think he is saying, if you don't try, if you get to the end of your life and you have not done what you know and your heart is there, then there is some form of failure, then there is some form of sin, and it feels like such a disappointment. Like every single human being is a universe full of potential. I heard a saying the other day, I think from a friend, who told me that one of the most amazing yet sad places is perhaps a grave, because within that space is so many unwritten books, for example.
A lot. And it made a huge difference to me.
You know, we found a clip. This is you actually interviewing your father several years ago. Let's take a look at this.
I remember driving home with you to Nacum a number of times and talking the whole time because you'd never stop asking questions.
Now, watching this just makes my heart so full. Jordan's clearly very choked up, very emotional. Understandably, he's just lost this man, and on national telly, he's been shown videos of his connection and his relationship with that. But his vulnerability is something that I just want to reflect on as a sign of bravery, honesty, authenticity. To arrive on national telly, to show clear signs of crying. I mean, how often do young men get to see their role models cry publicly? It's a real act of bravery, and this should not fly over people's radars, especially towards his critics. This man feels, and he feels big. Now, in the sense of arriving authentically, it's important for men to see this, to see examples of connecting with their pain. Every single man carries pain, yet doesn't necessarily know how to share that in a way that's not destructive, in a way that is constructive. And I think Jordan sets the example and shows men that they're not alone in their grief, even if such men's grief is unconscious and yet to be learnt about or integrated. These are the stepping stones to see that it is okay to cry. When I work with men in my therapy spaces, it's remarkable witnessing that journey as they are guided and meet parts of themselves, and how they feel after they've had an incredible cry is often euphoric and cathartic. They reflect that they feel like they've met a part of themselves that they've abandoned for so long. And there's a balance here, a grief, a mourning, a sense of loss for what they never knew, but also satisfaction, for a aha moment for finally learning something deep about themselves and why they are the way they are.
Yeah, well, hasn't changed much. I think I remember mostly when I was a little kid reading with you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, that was great. That was so much fun.
I thought so.
Honestly, bless him. And Jordan, if you're watching this, condolences to you on your loss. Your father seems like a great man, and he raised such an incredible and inspiring son. So thank you for all the work that you have been doing for the collective, for the masculine specifically. All right, guys, so that brings me to the end of this video, reflecting on Jordan Peterson and his role, being a good enough male, good enough man, and teaching us how it is done. I do appreciate that the feelings that come up in this video, for me, like, there's a sense of sadness, but also within that realness, rawness. And I wasn't expecting the video to end on that note. However, if it has resonated with you in any way, do be gentle with yourself, sit with yourself, see what that is, open up the inquiry, and begin exploring the connection with your heart and listening to the truth of your soul as it speaks to you is the most meaningful quest you can embark on to becoming a good enough male. I'm walking the path, and I promise you it is a journey. And on another note, I work as a therapist, so if any of you are interested on tapping on into your journey, stepping into your fullest potential and embarking on this quest, feel free to reach out to me. You'll find all my contact details beneath this video. Alright guys, pleasure having you here. If you've not done so already, please do hit that subscribe button, like this video, and comment. Let me know how you feel. Do you think Jordan Peterson is a good enough male? Is he a good role model? I'd love to hear your thoughts. See you in the next video, guys. Bye for now.